The auction listing made absolutely no sense. Military bunker. Minimum bid $1. No photographs, just GPS coordinates, and a single warning in red text. Buyer assumes all liability. Structure condemned. Enter at own risk. Rachel Morrison stared at her laptop screen in the pre-dawn darkness of their cramped studio apartment. Her 9-year-old daughter, Lily, asleep on the pull-out couch behind her. The electricity had been shut off yesterday. She was running her computer off the neighbor's unsecured Wi-Fi and her phone's hotspot. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today, which had maybe 2 hours of battery left. She had $347 in her checking account. Rent was 3 weeks overdue. The eviction notice on their door gave them 5 days to either pay the $1, $8.50 they owed or leave. Her manager at the call center had cut her hours again last week. Something about the company downsizing, which was just code for we're replacing humans with automated systems. Rachel scrolled through the government surplus auction site she'd stumbled onto while searching for storage units they couldn't afford. Most items were office furniture, old computers, vehicles that probably didn't run. Then she saw it. Abandoned military installation. Property ID. Site Delta 9. Location 87 miles northwest of Reno, Nevada. In the middle of absolutely nowhere. Built 1951. Decommissioned 1969 from 69. Total underground area approximately 12,000 square feet. Minimum bid $1. Rachel read it 3 times. She clicked on the property details. No interior photos, just a satellite image showing what looked like a concrete slab emerging from desert scrubland surrounded by chain link fence with warning signs. Still visible even from space. The description was almost comically sparse. Former Cold War-era military bunker sold as is. No utilities. No road access beyond dirt path. Structural integrity unknown. Previous owner, U.S. Department of Defense. Reason for sale, asset disposition. She thought about their situation. About how Lily had worn the same winter, a coat for 3 years, the one with the broken zipper. Rachel kept safety pinning closed. About how they'd been eating pasta and canned sauce for 2 weeks straight because it was all she could afford. About how her daughter deserved so much better than sleeping on a pull-out couch while her mother worked 60 hours a week and still couldn't make rent. The bunker was probably worthless, probably dangerous, probably filled with asbestos and God knows what else, but it was one. Even she could manage $1. Maybe, just maybe, there'd be something salvageable. Old metal she could sell for scrap copper wiring. Something. At this point, she was desperate enough to try. Rachel entered her bid at 4:47 a.m. Used the last dollar in her account, plus the 47 cents, and clicked submit. Then she closed the laptop and went to make Lily breakfast, which consisted of the last 2 packets of instant oatmeal and tap water heated in the microwave before the power company noticed and cut that off too. 3 days later, an email arrived. Congratulations. Your bid of $1 for property ID site Delta 9 has been accepted. Please remit payment and collect documentation at the Federal Asset Disposition Office in Carson City within 14 days, or your bid will be forfeit. Rachel stared at the screen. She'd actually won. She owned a bunker, a condemned, probably collapsing, definitely worthless bunker in the middle of the Nevada desert. But still, it was something. It was hers. The Federal Asset Disposition Office was located in a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a tax preparation service that looked like it had been closed since the 90s. The woman behind looked up when Rachel walked in. Just slid a clipboard across the counter. Sign everywhere. There's a yellow tab. Initial the red ones. That'll be. Rachel signed. She'd brought Lily with her because she couldn't afford a babysitter. And it was Saturday anyway. Her daughter sat in a plastic chair reading a library book about space exploration for the 3rd time because Rachel couldn't afford to buy her new books. The woman took Rachel's dollar, actual physical quarters, because her bank account was still empty, stamped several documents, and handed her a manila envelope that felt far too light to contain anything important. Deeds inside. So is the property survey and the last safety inspection, which was $1,987. So take that for what it's worth. Keys are in there too, though Lord knows if the lock's still congratulations on your purchase. Next, Rachel walked out, holding proof of ownership for 12 Zirazan's square fight of underground mystery. "Mom," Lily asked as they got into their 15-year-old Honda with the duct tape passenger window, "what are we going to do with a bunker?" Rachel looked at her daughter's hopeful face. "I don't know yet, baby, but it's ours. Nobody can take it away from us." The drive took 2 hours on progressively worse roads. The last 5 miles weren't even roads, just tire tracks through desert scrub that scraped the underside of their car and made horrible, grinding noises. Rachel prayed the whole way that they wouldn't break down because her phone had no signal out here, and walking back to civilization with a 9-year-old in 100 degrees heat was not an option. Finally, they found it. The bunker entrance rose from the desert like a concrete tombstone, weathered gray and covered in graffiti from decades of trespassers. The chain link fence had collapsed in several places. Warning signs dangled from rusted poles. US government property. No trespassing. Authorized personnel only. Someone had spray painted over one. Authorized by whom? The government that forgot about this place. The entrance itself was massive, a steel door at least 10 feet tall and 8 feet wide, designed to withstand things Rachel didn't want to think about. It was secured with a padlock the size of her fist. Rachel pulled out the keys from the envelope. There were 3 of them on a ring with a faded tag that read Site Delta 9 primary access. Her hand shook slightly as she inserted the largest key into the padlock. It turned smoothly, too smoothly for something that had supposedly been locked since 1969. The padlock fell away, and Rachel grabbed the door's handle, a wheel-like mechanism that looked like something from a submarine. She turned it, metal, groaned. Mechanisms clicked and clunked inside the door. Then, with a pneumatic hiss that made Lily jump, it swung inward. Cool air rushed out, carrying with it the smell of concrete, metal, and something else. Something that wasn't quite the smell of abandonment. It smelled maintained, preserved. Rachel clicked on the flashlight she'd brought, one of those cheap LED ones from the dollar store. The beam revealed stairs descending into absolute darkness. Concrete walls, surprisingly clean, metal railings that showed only surface rust. Overhead, she could see pipes and electrical conduits all neatly organized. "Mom, I don't like this," Lily whispered, gripping Rachel's hands so tightly it hurt. "It's okay. We'll just take a quick look. If it's too scary, we leave. Deal. Deal." They descended together, counting steps. 20 steps, 30, 40. The temperature dropped with every step, going from desert heat to comfortable coolness to almost cold. At the bottom, maybe 50 feet underground, the stairs ended in a corridor that stretched into darkness in both directions. Rachel swept her flashlight left, then right. The hallway was wide enough for 3 people to walk abreast, with doors on both sides every 20 feet or so. Each door had a number stenkled on it in military fashion. D901, D902, D903. She tried the first door locked. The second also locked. But the third door was different. It wasn't just unlocked. Someone had deliberately left it propped open with a rubber door stop. Rachel's heart hammered. "Stay behind me," she told Lily. She pushed the door fully open. The room beyond was enormous, at least 40 feet square. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. Filled with metal shelving units that stretched from floor to ceiling, and on those shelves covered in dust but otherwise pristine were supplies. Canned goods, boxes of dried food, water containers, medical supplies, all organized with military precision. "Whoa!" Lily breathed. Rachel approached the nearest shelf. The cans were old, their labels faded, but still readable. Beans, corn, peaches, all with dates stamped on top. She picked up a can, wiped away the dust, packed. March 1968. Someone had stocked this bunker to survive the apocalypse. She moved through the room, her flashlight revealing more and more. A hand-crank radio still in its box, batteries. Dozens of packages, blankets sealed in plastic. A medical kit that looked like it could outfit a small hospital. But it was what she found on the desk in the corner that made her breath catch. A ledger open with fresh handwriting, not from 1968 from last week. She read the most recent entry. Final inspection complete. All systems operational. Storage vault seals intact. Air filtration functioning. Emergency power active. The burden passes forward now. May the finder have the courage I lacked. It was dated 6 days ago, signed with just initials. RT. Rachel's hands trembled as she turned the pages backward. Entries going back months, years, decades, all in different hands, but all saying the same things. Vault secure, systems operational, secret maintained. Mom, there's another door back here. Rachel spun around. Lily was standing at the far end of the room, illuminated by her flashlight, pointing at something Rachel had missed in the shadows. Not just a door, a vault door, circular, like something from a bank with a combination dial and massive locking bolts around its circumference. Rachel approached closely. The vault door was different from everything else in the bunker, where the rest showed age and eyes, where this was immaculate. The metal gleamed. The combination dial moved smoothly when she touched it. Around the doorframe, someone had recently wiped away decades of dust, revealing an inscription cast into the metal. Federal Reserve, Emergency Depository, Authorized Access Only. Established 1951 Federal Reserve Emergency Depository. Rachel's mind raced. During the Cold War, the government had built secret vaults to protect America's wealth in case of nuclear attack. She'd read about them once in a magazine article about declassified programs. Millions, sometimes billions of dollars in gold and currency hidden in bunkers across the country. Most had been decommissioned and their contents moved. Most her hands found the ledger again, flipping to the first entry in the 14th of August 1951 initial deposit, complete 847 bars, standard issue total. Value $29,645,000. May God protect us from ever needing this next entry was years later, May 1. 9 and 69 facility decommissioned, contents to be retrieved and relocated. Transport delayed due to administrative issues. Then June 1, 969 transport cancelled, facility reclassified. Contents to remain in situ pending review. July 1, 969. Facility sealed, personnel reassigned. File closed. But the entries didn't stop there. August 1969. Written in different handwriting, someone needs to watch it. They forgot. But I didn't. I'll keep the secret. And then every month for 54 years. Brief entries. Vault secure. Secret kept. The last entry 6 days ago. Cancer won't wait anymore. 54 years of guarding what was forgotten. The Clear's Throat auction will find someone. Someone who needs this more than the government that lost track of it. The combination is what everyone forgets. The year we promised never again. The day freedom died. The month we learned fear. Rachel stared at the cryptic message. The year we promised never again. The day freedom died. The month we learned fear. She thought about the Cold War. About the fear that had driven people to build bunkers like this. The fear that had defined a generation. August 6th. The atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The 6th of August, 1945. She approached the vault door, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Lily stood beside her, both of them holding their breath. Right 8 click, left 6 click, right 19 click, left 45 click. A deeper sound like something massive unlocking. The vault door shifted slightly, no longer flush with the frame. Mom, what's in there? She grabbed the wheel at the vault center and turned. It moved easier than it should, smooth and well-oiled, despite decades of supposed abandonment. The locking bolts retracted with precise mechanical clicks. Then she pulled. The door swung open, and even in the darkness, even with just their small flashlights, they could see the gleam of gold. The vault was the size of a small garage carved from solid rock and lined with reinforced concrete. But what filled it took Rachel's breath away. Gold bars stacked in neat rows on reinforced shelving units. Hundreds of them, each one stamped with US, Federal Reserve and serial numbers, each one approximately 30 pounds of pure gold. Rachel's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the vault's threshold, unable to process what she was seeing. Lily walked forward slowly, almost into trance, reaching out to touch one of the bars. Is this real? Rachel found the inventory sheet bolted to the wall just inside the vault entrance. Her flashlight beam trembled as she read, Site Delta 9 Emergency Reserve Depository, established 1951. Purpose preservation of federal monetary reserves in the event of catastrophic national emergency. Contents: 847 standard Federal Reserve gold bars, each bar 400 troy ounces. Current total 338,800 troy ounces. Value at deposit 1, 95,129,645,000. Below that, someone had written in pencil much more recently, current gold price per troy ounce $1,950 as of 2024. Current total value $660,000. Rachel read it again and again. The numbers didn't change. $660 million. But wait, the ledger had said 847 bars. She counted the stacks visible in her flashlight beam. Fewer than expected, much fewer. She found a second sheet dated 1969. Final inventory before sealing, 647 bars remaining. 200 bars transferred to Fort Knox. 1,968 per executive order. Updated value $420,510,000. $420 million. Still in this vault. Still forgotten. Still, according to the deed in her pocket on property she now owned. Mom. Lily's voice was very small. Does this mean we're rich? Rachel couldn't answer. She was thinking about the electricity bill, about the eviction notice, about 3 weeks of overdue rent that had felt like an impossible mountain, about Lily's winter coat with the broken zipper. She was thinking about $420 million in forgotten gold, sitting in a vault beneath property she'd bought for $1. Then she heard it, the sound that would change everything. Footsteps above them on the stairs coming down. Multiple sets of footsteps and voices. The door was open. Fresh tire tracks outside. Someone's here. Rachel grabbed Lily, pulled her close, clicked off both flashlights. In the sudden darkness of the vault, surrounded by $420 million in gold, she held her daughter and tried to think. The auction had been public. Anyone could have seen it. Anyone could have known what this place really was. And now, whoever they were coming down the stairs into the bunker. And Rachel and Lily were trapped 50 feet underground with no other exit and a fortune they had no idea how to protect. The footsteps grew louder, echoing down the concrete corridor. Rachel's mind raced through impossible options. Hide in the vault? They'd find them eventually. Run for the stairs? They'd be seen immediately. Fight with what? She had an LED flashlight and a 9-year-old daughter. Mom, I'm scared. Lily whispered so quietly, it was barely breath. Rachel pulled her daughter closer, thinking frantically. Then she remembered something. The supply room they'd walked through. It had another door. She'd seen it in the flashlight beam marked emergency exit. Lily, listen to me very carefully, Rachel whispered. When I say run, we run back through the supply room to that other door. No matter what, don't look back. Don't stop. Understand? Lily nodded against her shoulder. The voices were clearer now, just outside the supply room. I'm telling you, Martinez saw the auction listing 3 days ago. Military bunker sold for $1. He knew immediately what it was. Site Delta 9. We've been searching for this location for 15 years. Does she know what's here? How could she? The files were buried so deep, even the federal government forgot about them. She probably thinks it's just an old bunker. But once we secure the gold, we can deal with whoever bought it. Make them an offer they can't refuse or make them disappear out here. Nobody would ever find them. Rachel's blood turned to ice. These weren't federal agents. These were thieves who'd been hunting for this place for years. She felt along the vault wall, found what she was looking for, a master power switch. She didn't know what it controlled, but every secure facility had emergency systems. She flipped it. Lights blazed throughout the entire bunker. Emergency generators roared to life somewhere deep below, their vibration thrumming through the concrete. Klaxon alarms started blaring, and most importantly, heavy steel doors began sliding closed throughout the facility. Automated security systems activating after 50 years of dormancy. What the hell? One of the voices shouted, "Go, go!" Before we're trapped. Rachel grabbed Lily's hand. Run! Now they burst out of the vault, running through the supply room. Behind them, she heard shouts and footsteps, but the men were scrambling for the stairs, trying to escape before the security doors sealed them in. Rachel found the emergency exit door pushed through. It led to a narrow tunnel carved through rock, slanting upward. Emergency lighting strips along the floor activated as they ran, showing them the way. Behind them, more security doors were grinding closed, one after another, buying them precious seconds. The tunnel climbed for what felt like forever. Lily stumbling but never stopping, Rachel pulling her forward. Finally, they burst out into blinding desert sunlight, emerging from a hidden exit 50 yards from the main entrance, camouflaged to look like a natural rock formation. Rachel could see the main bunker entrance from here. 3 men were sprinting out, barely making it before the massive main door began grinding closed. They stopped outside, staring back at the sealed entrance, then at each other. One of them noticed Rachel and Lily. There, that's them. But Rachel was already moving. She'd left their car at the main entrance. But there was something else here by the emergency exit. An old military jeep covered by a tarp hidden behind rocks. The keys were in the ignition just like the ledger had mentioned. Emergency vehicle maintained for Facility Guardian. The engine turned over on the first try. Clearly maintained by whoever had been watching this place for 50 years. Rachel gunned it. The jeep bouncing over the desert terrain, putting distance between them and the men who were now running toward their own vehicles. "Mom, where are we going?" Lily shouted over the engine noise. "Sheriff's office, federal building, anywhere with people and cameras." She pushed the jeep as hard as it would go, following tire tracks that would eventually lead to the dirt road. In the rear-view mirror, she could see 2 SUVs in pursuit, but the jeep was military designed for this terrain. Rachel pulled out her phone. No signal. Still no signal. "Come on. 1 bar. 2. Enough." She dialed 911. "What's your emergency? My name is Rachel Morrison. I'm being chased by armed men in the desert northwest of Reno. They tried to trap me in a government bunker. I'm driving a military jeep. Coordinates approximately." She looked at the GPS coordinates still written on the dashboard. "Read them off. I need help. I have my 9-year-old daughter with me." "Ma'am, stay on the line. I'm dispatching units to your location now. Can you describe the vehicles pursuing you?" Rachel did, watching them in the mirror. They were gaining. These weren't old military jeeps, but modern SUVs with powerful engines. Then, salvation appeared ahead. A Nevada State Police cruiser coming toward them on the dirt road. Lights already flashing. The SUVs behind her stopped abruptly, turned around, disappeared back into the desert. Rachel pulled up to the police car, killed the engine, and burst into tears. She'd been holding back since the moment she'd heard footsteps in the bunker. The officer approached carefully. "Ma'am, are you Rachel Morrison? Are you? We got your 911 call. We're okay. We're okay." Rachel pulled Lily close, both of them shaking. "No, but officer, I need to talk to someone from the federal government. Immediately. This is much bigger than you realize." What happened next would turn Rachel's story upside down, reveal a truth nobody expected, and remind us why sometimes the most valuable things are the ones everyone forgot about. The Nevada State Police Station in Reno was not designed for this kind of situation. Rachel sat in an interrogation room that smelled like stale coffee and floor cleaner. Lily beside her, coloring on the back of police paperwork cause Rachel couldn't think of what else to do with a traumatized 9-year-old who'd just learned her mother owned $420 million in forgotten gold. The officer who'd rescued them, Sergeant Rodriguez, had made calls, a lot of calls. First to his captain, then to the FBI, then apparently to someone at the Treasury Department who'd nearly had a heart attack when Rodriguez mentioned Site Delta 9. Now they waited. Rachel held the manila envelope from the Federal Asset Disposition Office like a lifeline. Inside was the deed proving she owned the property. She'd been over it 50 times in the last 3 hours, checking every word, making sure it was real. It was real. The property was hers. Legally purchased at a legitimate government auction. According to everything she'd frantically Googled on her phone while waiting, abandoned property laws were clear. If the government sold land without disclosing what was on it, the contents belonged to the buyer. The vault full of gold was on her land. The gold was hers if she survived long enough to claim it. The door opened. 3 people entered, all wearing suits that cost more than Rachel's car. The lid was a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair pulled back, severely carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than Rachel's entire wardrobe. "Miss Morrison, I'm Laura Chen, Assistant Director for the Treasury Department's Asset Recovery Division. This is Agent Marcus Thompson from the FBI. And this is James Whitmore, Legal Counsel for the Federal Reserve." They sat down across from her like this was a business meeting and not the single most surreal moment of Rachel's life. Chen opened her briefcase, pulled out a tablet, and showed Rachel a photograph. An aerial view of the bunker marked with official government stamps. "Do you know what you found, Miss Morrison?" "Gold. A lot of gold. 647 bars to be exact. Worth approximately $420 million at current market prices." Chen's eyebrow raised slightly. You've done your research. There was an inventory sheet in the vault. Someone had been maintaining it, updating the current value based on gold prices. Yes, we're aware of the Guardian situation. We've been trying to identify him for years. Agent Thompson leaned forward. Miss Morrison, what you stumbled into was classified at the highest levels for decades. Site Delta 9 was one of 12 emergency depositories built during the Cold War to protect federal reserves in case of nuclear attack. Most were closed in the 72nd. Their contents moved to Fort Knox or Denver. Most, Rachel repeated, but not all. Not all, Whitmore admitted. There were administrative issues, budget cuts, bureaucratic fights over which agency was responsible. By the time anyone remembered Site Delta 9, the files had been buried so deep, and the facility had been off the books for so long that it was easier to just classify the whole thing and forget about it. You lost track of $420 million in gold. Chen's expression didn't change. That's an oversimplification, but essentially yes. In 1987, there was a brief attempt to locate the facility, but the coordinates were lost. The facility designation had been reused for other sites, and frankly, there were bigger priorities. The gold was written off as a Cold War casualty, and now you own it. Chen said the words like they tasted bad. The property was legally de-accessioned and sold at legitimate auction. You purchased it in good faith. According to federal abandoned property law, specifically the Federal Surplus Personal Property Donation Program Act, you have legal claim to all contents found on the property unless the government can prove ongoing operational interest. Can you prove ongoing operational interest? No. Whitmore admitted the facility was officially decommissioned in 1969. All documentation states the contents were retrieved, which we now know was false, but there's no paper trail showing federal ownership for the last 55 years. Legally, the gold has been abandoned. Rachel's hands were shaking. So, it's mine. It's complicated. No, it's not. You forgot about it. You sold me the property. It's mine. Agent Thompson spoke up. Miss Morrison, there are national security implications here. The existence of this gold, its sudden reappearance, if this becomes public, it will raise questions about what else the government lost track of during the Cold War. That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. Chen's eyes narrowed. We're prepared to make you an offer with have $50 million cash tax-free in exchange for the gold and your signature on a confidentiality agreement. Rachel did the math. They were offering less than 12% of the actual value. 12% to shut up and go away. She thought about the electricity bill, about the eviction notice, about Lily's coat with the broken zipper. $50 million would change their lives forever. They'd never struggle again, never face eviction, never count pennies for groceries. But it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about what they'd tried to do. Seal her in that vault, make her disappear. Treat her like she was disposable because she was poor and powerless. And who would miss a single mother and a daughter anyway? No, Rachel said. Excuse me. No, I'm not taking $50 million for something worth $420 million. And I'm not signing a confidentiality agreement. The gold is mine, legally mine. And if you want to take it, you'll have to sue me. And when you sue me, it becomes public record. And then everyone will know the federal government lost track of nearly $500 million in gold and tried to cheat the person who found it. The three officials exchanged glances. Chen's jaw tightened. Miss Morrison, I don't think you understand the forces you're dealing with. Those men who chased you, they won't be the last. There are people who've been hunting for those Cold War vaults for decades. Treasure hunters, criminals, foreign governments. The moment word gets out, you'll have a target on your back. Then I guess the federal government better provide protection for a taxpayer who legally acquired property at your own auction. This is a mistake. Whitmore said we're offering you a generous settlement. 12% isn't generous, it's insulting. I'm a single mother who works in a call center. I know what it's like to be squeezed because someone thinks you're desperate enough to accept whatever scraps. Not anymore. Rachel stood up, gathering the manila envelope. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to hire a lawyer, a really good lawyer, and we're going to establish legal claim to that gold. And then I'm going to do something none of you expected, which is I'm going to use it to help people, real people who've been forgotten, just like that gold was forgotten. Single mothers, veterans, Working families, everyone. The system left behind while you were busy losing track of $420 million. She turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and about those men who tried to kill me and my daughter, you might want to find them before I do because I'm pressing charges. Attempted murder, attempted robbery, criminal conspiracy. And when that goes to trial, it'll all come out. The bunker, the gold, everything. Chen's voice was ice. You're making a serious mistake, Miss Morrison. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Rachel took Lily's hand and walked out of the interrogation room. In the parking lot, as they waited for the police to arrange a safe place for them to stay, Lily looked up at her mother. Mom, are they going to try to take it away from us? Rachel knelt down, meeting her daughter's eyes. Probably. But, baby, here's what I learned today. The scariest moment wasn't finding the gold. It wasn't even being chased. It was realizing I'd spent so long being afraid that I'd forgotten I could fight back. Are we going to win? I don't know, but we're going to try. And sometimes trying is enough. The lawyer Rachel found was named Patricia Morse, a woman in her 60s who'd made her career representing David against Goliath. She'd taken on corporations, governments, and once, famously the IRS. She worked out of a small office in downtown Reno and answered her own phone. You want to sue the federal government for $420 million in gold? Patricia said after listening to Rachel's story. It wasn't a question. I want to establish legal claim to property I own on land I legally purchased. Patricia leaned back in her chair, studying Rachel. You know, they'll try everything. Eminent domain, national security claims, administrative seizure. They'll drag this through courts for years. Can we win? Maybe the law is actually on your side. Federal abandoned property statutes are clear, but this isn't really about law. It's about power. The question is, can you handle what comes next? Rachel thought about Lily, about the life they'd been living, paycheck to paycheck, crisis to crisis, about the eviction notice and the electricity cut off and all the small humiliations of poverty. I've been handling worse my whole life. At least now I'm fighting for something real. Patricia smiled. Then let's make some very powerful people very uncomfortable. The lawsuit was filed 3 days later. Morrison v. United States Department of Treasury. The case summary was straightforward. Plaintiff seeks declaratory judgment establishing ownership of property found on land legally purchased at government auction. The news broke within hours. Single mother sues government for $420 million in lost gold. CNN Cold War Vault discovered. Legal battle over forgotten fortune. Washington Post. Woman bought bunker for $1. Found 420 meters in gold. Government wants it back. Fox News. Rachel's phone exploded with calls. News media. Treasure hunters. Lawyers offering representation. Random people calling her greedy. Other random people calling her a hero. She turned it all off and focused on keeping Lily safe and normal. While the world went insane around them, the government's response was swift and brutal. They filed for emergency seizure of the property, claiming national security interests. They dispatched armed guards to the bunker, sealing it again. They froze Rachel's bank accounts, claiming potential tax liability. Patricia countered every move. She filed for protection under whistleblower statutes, argued that the government's own auction constituted abandonment. And most importantly, she leaked everything to the press, every document, every legal filing, every attempt by the government to intimidate Rachel into submission. Public opinion shifted in Rachel's favor. Here was a single mother working a call center job who'd won a dollar auction and found a fortune. And now wealthy government officials were trying to steal it from her. The optics were terrible for the Treasury Department. More importantly, Rachel wasn't alone anymore. A veterans group filed an amicus brief supporting her claim, arguing that if the government couldn't keep track of hundreds of millions in gold, they had no right to reclaim it. A non-profit focused on government transparency joined the case, using it to demand accounting of all Cold War-era assets. 3 senators, sensing political opportunity, called for hearings on federal asset management. The pressure mounted until Treasury had no choice but to negotiate. The meeting took place in a federal courthouse, mediated by a judge who'd clearly had enough of both sides. Rachel sat with Patricia on one side of the table. Chen, Thompson, and Whitmore sat across from them along with 4 more government lawyers. We're prepared to offer $150 million, Chen began. Final offer, Take it or we'll bury you in legal proceedings for the next decade. Counteroffer, Patricia said calmly. You acknowledge Rachel's legal ownership of all contents found on property legally purchased. In exchange, Rachel agrees to the following. The gold will be liquidated slowly over 5 years to prevent market disruption. 30% of the net proceeds will go to federal taxes. Another 15% will go to state and local taxes. The remaining 55% belongs to Rachel to be distributed as she sees fit. That's $231 million to a woman who worked in a call center 6 months ago. That's 55% of what's legally hers, Patricia corrected. She's offering the government 45% of something you had written off as lost. That's approximately $189 million you weren't expecting to ever see again. Or you can keep fighting and risk a court ruling that gives you nothing. The government lawyers conferred in whispers. Finally, Chen spoke. We need certain conditions, a trust structure, professional management, regular audits. Agreed, Rachel said, speaking for the first time. I want those things too. I'm not trying to hide anything. I just want what's fair and the publicity, the news coverage. I can't control what the media does. But I'm not interested in being famous. I'm interested in using this money to help people who've been forgotten. Just like that, gold was forgotten. More whispering among the government team. Then Whitmore spoke. What people? Rachel had been thinking about this for weeks. I want to start a foundation for working families living paycheck to paycheck. Single parents, people drowning in medical debt or student loans, people who work full-time and still can't make rent. Everyone. The system failed while you were busy losing track of $420 million. Something shifted in the room. Even the government lawyers seemed to recognize that Rachel wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for everyone like her. We'll need approval of the foundation structure, Chen said carefully. Fine. I'll need approval of your auditing process. We'll both have oversight. This is highly irregular. So is losing track of $420 million in gold for 50 years. The final agreement took 3 months to negotiate, but it was signed in January, 7 months after Rachel had placed a $1 bid on an abandoned bunker. The terms were simple. Rachel owned the gold. The government provided security and logistical support. The gold would be sold over 5 years through official channels. After taxes, Rachel would net approximately $231 million. She'd never work a call center again. But more importantly, neither would thousands of other people if her foundation worked the way she planned. The first thing Rachel did was pay off their back rent. All $1, 850 of it. She hand-delivered the check to their old landlord, who'd been calling daily demanding payment. He stared at the check then, at Rachel. Where'd you get this rubber bank? No, Rachel said pleasantly. I bought one for $1. The second thing she did was take Lily shopping for a new winter coat. They went to a department store, and Rachel told her daughter she could pick any coat she wanted. Any coat at all. Lily walked past the expensive ones and chose a simple blue jacket on sale. This one's nice. Baby, you can get whatever you want. Money isn't a problem anymore. Lily shook her head. This one's perfect, and it's on sale. Somebody else might need the more expensive ones more than me. Rachel started crying right there in the department store. Because her daughter had learned about scarcity so young, she couldn't unlearn it even when scarcity was gone. They bought 3 coats that day, 1 for Lily and 2 to donate to the children's shelter, where they'd stayed for a month 2 years ago when they'd been evicted before. The third thing Rachel did was hire Patricia Morse as the foundation's legal counsel, with a salary triple what Patricia had been making at her small practice. You don't have to do this, Patricia said. You already paid my legal fees. I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because you fought for me when I had nothing. Now I have something and I'm fighting for others. I need someone who knows how to fight. The foundation launched in March, 11 months after Rachel had bought the bunker. It was called the Second Chance Foundation, and its mission was simple. Provide direct financial assistance to working families in crisis. Not loans, not programs, direct cash payments to people who needed help right now, today, desperately. Medical debt paid, eviction notice, rent covered, car broke down, and you need it for work fixed. Student loans drowning you, payment made. The foundation's guidelines were deliberately broad. If you're working, trying, doing your best, and still falling behind, you qualify. The applications flooded in. Thousands in the first week, tens of thousands in the first month. Each one a story like Rachel's used to be of people stretched too thin, working too hard, still falling short. Rachel hired a team to process applications. Former social workers, teachers, community organizers, people who knew how to tell the difference between need and want, who understood that sometimes $500 was the difference between surviving and going under. The first checks went out in April. A single father in Baltimore whose car had died and who couldn't get to work without it. $3, $200 for repairs. A woman in Phoenix facing eviction because her hours had been cut. Fined $400 for rent. A veteran in Portland with medical bills from cancer treatment. $15,000 to clear the debt. Story after story of crisis averted, of families pulled back from the edge, of people given the breathing room to rebuild. But Rachel did more than just write checks. She partnered with trade schools to offer free training programs. She worked with hospitals to negotiate down medical debt for foundation recipients. She created a legal fund to help working families fight predatory lenders and wage theft. She established childcare subsidies for single parents trying to work and study simultaneously. The foundation became what Rachel had needed years ago, a safety net for people whose only crime was working hard in an economy that didn't pay enough. By the end of the first year, the Second Chance Foundation had distributed $47 million to 23,000 families across all 50 states. The stories came back in letters, emails, sometimes hand-delivered to the Bren Foundation office Rachel had established in Reno. "You saved my family. I was going to lose my house. Now my kids still have a home. I'd given up. Your help reminded me not to. I was 3 days from homelessness. Now I have a future." Rachel read every letter, every single one. She wanted to remember what it felt like, the desperation, the fear, the constant calculation of which bill to pay and which to let slide. She never wanted to forget that she'd once been one of those letters, one disaster away from losing everything. The media attention was intense, but Rachel learned to manage it. She did interviews, always focusing on the foundation's work rather than her story. She appeared before Congress when they held hearings on federal asset management, using a testimony to highlight how many Americans were living in poverty despite working full-time. "You lost track of $420 million, she told the congressional committee. "I understand how that happens. Bureaucracy, paperwork, time passing. But while you were losing track of gold, you were also losing track of people. Millions of people working jobs that don't pay enough. Living in a country wealthy enough to lose $420 million and not notice the gold I found, giving most of it away. I don't need $420 million. I needed safety, security, hope. That's what I'm trying to provide now. What I wish someone had provided for me." The congresswoman chairing the hearing leaned forward. "Morrison, what do you think the government should learn from this situation?" Rachel thought about it. That the things we forget about are often the things that matter most. Whether it's gold in a bunker or single mothers working double shifts. Pay attention. Remember, care. The men who'd tried to trap Rachel in the bunker were eventually found and prosecuted. It turned out they were part of a larger group of treasure hunters who'd been searching for Cold War vaults. For decades, they'd been monitoring government auctions, looking for property that matched the geographic profiles of known secret installations. They'd seen Rachel's name on the auction winner list and had tracked her to the bunker, planning to secure the gold before she realized what she'd found. They were convicted of attempted kidnapping, criminal conspiracy, and a handful of other charges. They each got 10 to 15 years. Rachel attended the sentencing hearing. One of them, a man named Martinez, apologized to her and Lily, tears streaming down his face. "I was desperate. I'd spent 15 years searching, invested everything. I thought the gold would save me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for scaring your daughter." Rachel looked at him. This man who terrified her, who'd made her feel hunted and helpless, and she understood him because she'd been desperate too. She knew what desperation made people do. "I forgive you," she said. "And when you get out, if you need help starting over, contact the foundation." Lily was 11 now, thriving in a way Rachel had never dreamed possible. They lived in a modest house in Reno. Nothing extravagant, just enough space and light and safety. Lily had her own room with bookshelves full of books she actually owned, not library books they had to return. She joined the robotics club at school and was talking about becoming an engineer. She volunteered at the foundation sometimes, helping process applications, seeing the same desperation her mother had once lived with. "Mom," Lily asked one evening as they made dinner together in their actual kitchen with actual fresh groceries. They'd actually bought without calculating every penny. "Do you ever miss before when it was just us against the world?" Rachel thought about it. "I miss how simple it was in some ways. But baby, it wasn't us against the world. It was the world against us, and we were barely surviving. Now we're not just surviving, we're thriving, and we're helping others do the same. I'm proud of you, Mom. I'm proud of you too, sweetheart. You could have asked for anything after we found that gold. You chose a coat on sale because someone else might need the expensive ones more. That tells me we're going to be okay." 2 years after finding the bunker, Rachel did something unexpected. She bought the property around the bunker, an additional 400 acres of desert scrubland, and turned it into something new. The Second Chance Foundation campus, the old bunker, was converted into a museum, telling the story of Cold War-era emergency preparedness, of government programs forgotten, of ordinary people who ended up guarding extraordinary secrets. The Guardian, who'd maintained Site Delta 9 for 50 years, was eventually identified as Richard Torres, a retired Army sergeant who died of cancer just days before Rachel bought the property. The museum honored his memory, this man who'd kept a promise nobody else remembered. But the campus was more than a museum. Rachel built a training center offering free classes in trades and skills. She established a child care facility for students with kids. She created a housing complex for families in transition, safe places to live while getting back on their feet. The desert property that she'd bought for $1 that had seemed like the most desperate purchase of her life became a place where desperation turned into hope. On the 3rd anniversary of finding the gold, Rachel stood at the dedication ceremony for the campus, surrounded by people whose lives had been changed by the foundation. Former recipients who were now employees, donors, volunteers, people who'd been given a second chance and were now providing second chances to others. Patricia Morse, still the Foundation's legal counsel and Rachel's closest friend, handed her the microphone. "You should say something." Rachel looked at the crowd at Lily, now 12, standing with the robotics club from her school, teaching younger kids about engineering, at the families living in the campus housing, at the students attending training classes, at the museum, visitors learning about history and hope. 3 years ago, Rachel began. I was 3 weeks behind on rent. The electricity was cut off. My daughter and I were eating pasta and canned sauce for the 2nd week straight. I bought an abandoned bunker for $1 because I was desperate enough to gamble that last dollar on the possibility of finding something salvageable. I found more than I dreamed. But here's what I learned. The gold wasn't the treasure. The treasure was understanding that I didn't have to stay small, stay silent, stay grateful for scraps. The treasure was learning I could fight back, could demand what was fair, could use what I'd been given to help others. Everyone here has a story, moments when you were desperate, scared, hanging on by a thread. Some of you received help from this foundation. Some of you provide help now. All of you understand that there's no shame in needing support, and there's great dignity in giving it. The government forgot about $420 million in gold. They forgot about it for 50 years. And I think that's a metaphor for how we as a society forget about people. We forget about the single mother working 2 jobs, the veteran struggling with medical bills, the family 1 car, breakdown away from catastrophe. We forget, or we decide they don't matter enough to remember. This foundation exists to remember, to notice, to care. Every person who applies for help is someone who matters. Someone doing their best in a system that often makes best feel like it isn't enough. The gold is almost gone now. We've distributed over $200 million in 3 years. In 5 years, there won't be any gold left. But that's okay, because we've built something that doesn't need gold to continue. We've built a community of people who remember what it's like to need help, and who now provide it. Rachel looked at Lily. My daughter asked me once if I missed before. The answer is no. Because before we were forgotten, we were invisible. We didn't matter to anyone in power. Now we're visible. We matter. And most importantly, we're helping others become visible, too. So thank you. Thank you to everyone who supported this work. Thank you to Patricia for fighting beside me. Thank you to the staff who process applications with compassion and dignity. Thank you to Richard Torres, who guarded a secret for 50 years until someone came along who knew what to do with it. And thank you to everyone who applied for help, who trusted us with your stories, who took a second chance and ran with it. You remind us why this matters. Rachel raised her hand, looking at the desert landscape where a fortress of secrets had stood abandoned. This place was built to protect wealth in case of catastrophe. The catastrophe came, just not the one they expected. It came slowly over decades, an erosion of security for working families. But here on this spot where wealth was forgotten, we clear's throat remember. We remember that people matter more than money, that dignity matters more than wealth, that second chances matter more than anything. The applause was genuine, warm. Rachel stepped down from the platform and was immediately surrounded by people wanting to thank her, to share their stories, to tell her how the foundation had changed their lives. An elderly veteran gripped her hand. My granddaughter applied for help. Medical bills from cancer treatment. You paid the whole thing. She's alive because of you. A young mother with a toddler on her hip smiled shyly. The childcare subsidy. I was able to finish my degree. I start teaching in the fall. A man in his 40s wearing a shirt that said, "Second Chance Auto Repair. You helped me open my shop. Business is good. I'm hiring 2 more people next month. And I'll pay them fair wages because I remember what it's like to struggle." Story after story, life after life. Threads of hope woven from forgotten gold. That night, after the ceremonies and celebrations ended, Rachel and Lily sat on the porch of their modest house, watching the desert stars. The same stars that had shone over the bunker the night. Rachel first opened it, terrified and desperate, and hoping for any scrap of salvage. "Mom," Lily said quietly, "do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't bought the bunker?" Rachel thought about it. "We would have been evicted, probably ended up in a shelter again. I would have kept working minimum wage jobs, kept struggling, kept fighting just to survive. We would have made it somehow. We're survivors." "But this is better. This is better," Rachel agreed. "Not because of the money, though that certainly helps, but because I learned something important. I learned that asking for what you deserve isn't greedy, that fighting for yourself isn't selfish, that you can be grateful for help while also demanding fairness. The government wanted me to take $50 million and go away quietly. That's what people like us are supposed to do. Accept what we're given and be grateful. But I learned I could say no. I could fight. And fighting for myself meant I could fight for others too." Lily was quiet. "I want to be like you when I grow up." Rachel pulled her daughter close. "Be better than me, baby. Be braver. Start fighting earlier. Don't wait until you're desperate. Remember that you matter. That you deserve dignity and fairness and opportunity. Will the foundation still be here when I'm grown up? If we do this right, yes. The gold will be gone, but the foundation will continue. The campus will still offer training and housing and hope because we built something bigger than one fortune. We built a movement. Above them, a satellite tracked across the stars, one of thousands of objects humanity had launched into the void. Rachel thought about the bunker, that concrete tomb built to protect wealth from apocalypse. Built by people who thought the end would come in fire and atomic fury. They'd been wrong about the apocalypse. It hadn't come all at once. It had come slowly. One eviction notice at a time. One medical bill. One impossible choice between rent and food. But they'd been right about one thing. Wealth could be preserved, protected, passed forward to those who needed it, just not in the way they'd imagined. 5 years after buying the bunker, the last of the gold was sold. The final disbursement, from the Second Chance Foundation, went to a single father in Seattle, whose car had broken down and who couldn't get to work without it. $2,800 for repairs. The same kind of small crisis that had defined Rachel's life before. The kind of crisis that felt like the end of the world when you were living through it. The foundation didn't stop. By then, it had established enough other funding sources. Donors who'd been inspired by Rachel's story, corporations looking for tax deductions and good publicity, wealthy individuals who remembered their own struggles or wanted to prevent others from experiencing them. The gold was gone, but the work continued. Rachel was offered book deals, movie rights, speaking tours. She turned down most of them. She did accept an invitation to speak at her old call center to the workers who'd shared her struggles. She told them about finding the bunker, about fighting the government, about learning to demand fairness. But mostly she told them about something simpler. "I was you," she said, to the room full of people wearing the same headsets she'd once worn, taking the same calls, earning the same wages that weren't enough. I sat in these chairs. I calculated whether I could afford groceries or electricity, not both. I wore shoes with holes. I watched my daughter go without because I couldn't provide more. The gold changed my circumstances, but it didn't change who I am. I'm still the same person who worked here, who struggled here. The only difference is opportunity. I got lucky, impossibly lucky, but here's what I learned from that luck. It shouldn't take impossible luck to survive. It shouldn't take finding $420 million in forgotten gold to afford rent and groceries and dignity. You deserve better. Not because you might find treasure, but because you work hard and try and show up. That should be enough, until the system changes to make that true. There are organizations like mine trying to fill the gap. But more importantly, there's power in fighting for yourself, in demanding fairness, in refusing to accept that struggle is inevitable. You matter, remember that. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Lily went to MIT at 17, studying engineering with a full scholarship she didn't technically need but applied for anyway, because someone else's parent might need the foundation money more than us. Mom, she called home weekly, sharing stories about her classes, her projects, her plans to design sustainable infrastructure for developing communities. She'd inherited her mother's determination and added to it a belief that systems could be changed, that engineering wasn't just about building things, but about building fairness into the world. Rachel remained in Reno, running the foundation, expanding its programs, training others to replicate the model in different cities. She dated occasionally, but there was never time to get serious. The work was too important, too urgent. There were always more applications, more families in crisis, more people falling through gaps in the safety net. On quiet nights, she sometimes drove out to the bunker campus, walking through the museum, reading the exhibits about Cold War paranoia and government secrets. She'd stand in front of Richard Torres's photograph, this man who'd maintained a vault for 50 years for reasons she'd never fully understand. Duty, guilt, hope that someone would eventually come along who knew what to do with it. Whatever his reasons, Rachel was grateful. His decades of secret vigilance had given her the chance to build something meaningful. 10 years after buying the bunker for $1, Rachel received a letter at the foundation office. It was from the Department of Treasury, forwarded through multiple bureaucratic channels. She opened it carefully, half expecting legal troubles or new demands. Instead, she found an apology. "Dear Miss Morrison," it began. "This letter comes 10 years too late, but on behalf of the Department of Treasury and the federal government, to formally acknowledge that our initial response to your discovery of Site Delta 9 was inappropriate, unjust, and reflected poorly on our commitment to fairness and transparency. Your fight to claim what was legally yours, and your subsequent decision to use that wealth to help others has been an example to this department and to the nation. You turned our failure into your success, and then turned your success into opportunity for thousands of others. We are writing to inform you that the federal government has established the Morrison Initiative for Federal Asset Transparency, requiring regular audits and public disclosure of all government assets to prevent future situations like Site Delta 9. Additionally, inspired by your foundation's work, we are establishing federal programs to provide emergency assistance to working families in crisis. While government programs can never match the compassion and efficiency of your organization, we hope to complement your efforts. Thank you for your service to your community and your country. Thank you for fighting when it would have been easier to accept. Thank you for remembering the forgotten." The letter was signed by the current Treasury Secretary and countersigned by the President. Rachel read it twice, then filed it away. The acknowledgement was nice, but the real reward had been the last 10 years. The families helped, the lives changed, the system ever so slightly pushed toward fairness. She thought about that morning, 10 years ago, desperate and afraid, placing a $1 bid on an abandoned bunker because she had nothing left to lose. She'd been looking for salvage, for scrap metal, for anything to help them survive another month. She'd found $420 million in gold. But more than that, She'd found her voice, her power, her purpose. The gold was gone now, transformed from bars in a vault to opportunity in the world. Medical bills paid, evictions prevented, cars repaired, families stabilized, lives preserved. Rachel Morrison, who'd once counted pennies for groceries, had taken forgotten wealth and used it to ensure others wouldn't be forgotten. Sometimes Rachel would meet with foundation recipients at the campus, sitting with them in the visitor center that overlooked the old bunker entrance. She'd listen to their stories, hear the echoes of her own past in their struggles, and feel the weight of responsibility that came with being able to help. One afternoon, a woman named Maria came to meet her. She was 32, a single mother of 3, who'd been working as a nursing assistant. A car accident had left her unable to work for 6 months, and despite having insurance, the medical bills and loss of income had pushed her to the edge of financial ruin. The foundation had paid her back rent, covered her medical debt, and provided a bridge loan for her to complete her nursing degree. "I don't know how to thank you," Maria said, tears streaming down her face. "I was going to lose my apartment. My kids were going to end up in foster care because I couldn't provide for them. You saved us." Rachel took her hand. "You saved yourself. You were working, trying, doing everything right. The system failed you. I just helped bridge the gap. But now I need you to do something for me. Anything. Remember this feeling. Remember what it was like to be desperate. And when you're on your feet again, when stable and secure, help someone else. Though if you can, that's wonderful. But help. Notice care. Don't let yourself forget what this felt like." Maria nodded, wiping her eyes. "I promise. I'll never forget." These conversations happened weekly, sometimes daily. Each one a reminder of why Rachel had fought so hard for the gold. Why she'd refused to take the easy money and disappear. The gold had been forgotten, yes. But so had millions of people just like Maria, just like Rachel herself had once been. The foundation's model began to spread. Inspired by Rachel's work, similar organizations started appearing in other states. Some were smaller, some larger, but all shared the same core principle: direct aid to working families in crisis. Given with dignity and without judgment, Rachel consulted with many of these organizations, sharing what she'd learned, helping them avoid the mistakes she'd made in the early days. She'd built a network of mutual support foundations, helping foundations, ensuring that the ripple effects of that forgotten gold spread far beyond Nevada. By year 12, the Second Chance Foundation had helped over $100 Susan families. The total distributed was approaching $300 million. Money that had prevented evictions, saved homes, kept families together, enabled education, funded small businesses, and most importantly, restored hope to people who'd forgotten what hope felt like. Rachel kept meticulous records of every dollar spent. Not because the government required it, though they did, but because she wanted to understand what worked, what helped people not just survive a crisis, but break the cycle of crisis altogether. The data told clear stories. Childcare support helped single parents complete education and training. Legal aid prevented wage theft and predatory lending from destroying family finances. Small business loans created employment in communities where jobs were scarce. Housing assistance kept children in stable schools and parents in steady work. But the most powerful intervention remained the simplest: direct cash payments to people in immediate crisis. No strings, no judgments, just help when it was needed most. Rachel presented this data everywhere she could. Congressional hearings, academic conferences, community meetings. She became an unlikely expert on poverty, not from studying it in universities, but from living it, surviving it, and then dedicating herself to helping others escape it. Critics, of course, some called her naive, said she was enabling dependency, claimed people would waste the money on drugs or gambling or frivolous spending. Rachel had heard it all before, the same judgments that had been directed at her when struggling, when she'd been with data. Of the 100,000 families helped, fewer than 2% had required repeated assistance for the same crisis. The overwhelming majority used the help to stabilize, then moved forward. They paid their own rent, kept their own jobs, built their own lives. They just needed someone to believe in them long enough to get back on their feet. The problem isn't that people are irresponsible, Rachel told one particularly skeptical congressional committee. The problem is that the margin for error is so thin that one flat tire, One sick kid, one unexpected bill can destroy everything you've worked for. We're not enabling dependency. We're preventing unnecessary catastrophe. She'd become comfortable in these rooms, these spaces of power where decisions were made about people who'd never set foot in such places. Rachel had learned to translate struggle into policy, desperation into data, hope into budget proposals. But she never forgot where she'd come from. She still drove a modest car, still lived in the same house she'd bought years ago, still shopped at the same grocery store where she'd once counted pennies. The money hadn't changed her core values, only amplified her ability to live by them. The bunker still stood in the desert, no longer a tomb for secrets, but a monument to second chances. And Rachel Morrison, who'd bought it for $1 on the most desperate morning of her life, had proven that sometimes the best investments aren't about what you spend, they're about what you do with what you find. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next.